Hey guys, Steve here. Today we're going to look at Bismarck for you. Tier 7 German battleship, of course. We got Silax, Kedrov, and Von Hipper. I think he's level 11. Porcupine, and we got double secondary build. We got Megatron in the second turret there. This is full-on goofball build. And this is, upon the German battleships being released, I was as excited for a strong secondary build as the next guy. But not long after getting this ship, it became apparent to me it wasn't the most effective in terms of how the secondaries operate in our game. They're just not good enough currently to say that it's the most competitive build, but you guys kept asking me in streams over time to play the secondary build Bismarck. Tested it out a few times during those. You might remember that video where we were playing against AI testing the secondary effectiveness. And the more and more I played the setup, it's just a fun ship to play. So it's very unique. Currently, I don't think it's the strongest Tier 7 battleship, but if you're going to grind the line, you might as well slap a full secondary build into it. And keep in mind, over the summer, I think T. Kana with Wargaming was interviewing the lead developer of this game, and they said the secondary rework is something they're working on. So when that's going to happen, we don't know, but it could happen by the end of the year, could happen down the road, who knows. Once that happens, if they do it right, maybe this will end up being a very powerful build. We'll see. Anyway, Trident, capture the base mode. We spawn southwest. We're moving to the northeast. If you play this position here, you got to understand, number one, you're usually going to get some good crossfire shots like we did on that Colorado. Ships that are moving from their spawn points in the north to the west will often be broadside to you. You can dev strike those cruisers. You can hit juicy shots on the battleships. He did turn away, so he didn't take much damage, but it's a good, solid play to begin with anyways. Note the secondaries going off at the Odin. Our main guns can't really hit each other due to the island, but the floaty nature of those secondaries, sometimes you can get in positions where you can harass ships with those, and even though you won't be able to shoot each other with your main guns. Kind of interesting, but if you're going to play this position here, you got to understand you're going to get spotted from the northeast sooner or later, and you got to kind of pre-plan a turn, as we're going to do here. Kutuzov sitting in the smoke, you can see. We're going to wait to see where he's shooting. Go ahead, pull the trigger, and we do hit him, I think, with one shell. But anytime you're in the smoke and you get hit by blind fire, especially at max range, even more especially with a Bismarck, you should be saying to yourself, all right, that guy knows how to aim. I would stop shooting the guns, or at least start dancing much more back and forth in the smoke. Torpedoes come, we dodged the torps just by luck because we were executing the pre-planned turn. But now the Odin pushes forward here really aggressively. He's going to have access to the broadside. We kind of had to angle against the torps. We had to angle against the ships to the north. He's being very aggressive in terms of how far forward he's going, but it's paying off. He's going to get a couple wicked shots in us, and our health is almost halfway gone. So early trades in terms of our HP versus the damage we're doing to the enemy team's HP, we're losing that battle right off the bat. So not the best opener in terms of the results, but that's usually a pretty strong play. You just got to be playing it pretty carefully. Normally their Odin isn't going to be that aggressive and catch you on the broadside like that. Their Akatsuki is being aggressive trying to kill ours, but he does get spotted. Now the secondaries are going off. Our main guns slap him. Secondaries are backing it up, and the Akatsuki is actually chiming in and shooting him as well. So that was a situation where he thought we got a strong advantage. We got the full health Akatsuki against whatever health ours is, plus the Odin trailing right behind. But the situation quickly flips around, and we get him to pop his smoke and kind of disengage. Odin catches us again, but we're able to blast him here on the reload, and we'll finish him off. I think it's, the next salvo after this. And then check the map. We're still got the grayed out Akatsuki over there. We do want to get him taken care of. But in terms of the deployment, look at the red team is really spread out. Blue team currently kind of spread out, but as the match develops, you're going to start to notice some gravitational influence on these blue ships. They're going to start to clump up. Not going to be a pure black hole, but it's like a quasi black hole, and not the best strategy. So we're going to wind up being kind of confined in the lower southwest corner of the map, like having map control over a quarter of the map. But because the red team is parked on the moon, because they're really reticent to push forward, they're not going to press the advantage. we'll talk more about that here, but the Akatsuki decides to suicide Tormi, presumably, or maybe he was trying to catch our Akatsuki and kill him before he goes down. But the secondaries, once again, you see how effective they are against destroyers close range. So the destroyers, I mean, that's kind of the best use of the secondaries currently is harassing destroyers, preventing them from rushing you. Or if they do move in close to you, then they'll just get shredded by those. So little aggressive play there. But getting back to the map control, because red is so slow, because they're so hesitant to push in, that's going to allow us to kind of flip the table, flip the script on them. You can see here, though, you know, we're getting some crossfire shots in this Odin. I'm trying to support the team over here because his attention is presumably occupied with the ships near him. You can see he's shooting to the south at whatever target over there. So we're going to take a couple shots here. But I'm keeping an eye on the map because that Colorado that he's been playing more traditionally is a little more slow to move forward, but he is going to try and go to the west. So keep an eye on him as the map develops, or the match develops. Asashio coming in here, presumably for a suicide torp run. I would assume the torps are already in the water at that battleship, and because he's broadside to him, he's probably going down. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut the Asashio as he comes around the left-hand side of this island. He turns around, so he must have not had the torps loaded to begin with. Thought he would get in a position early, turns around. This is going to cost him. That was a big mistake there. He could have gotten away and caused havoc throughout the rest of the match. Now we got a 2-destroyer advantage. That's a huge advantage. And, you know, usually the team that has the destroyer advantage is going to win the game more often than not. Odin, look on the map. Keep an eye on the map here. He's pushing into the base. We're going to take a shot or two at him until we see the Colorado's finally in position to shoot at us. Then we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to him. Why is that? Because, yes, the Odin's potentially going to get on the base and cap, and we're going to talk about capping and capture the base mode here as the game goes on. But that's not as big of a deal as this Colorado. If he continues to go to the west, southwest, and theoretically if those grayed out ships on the moon move south and actually get in a position to be, you know, in the game as opposed to watching the game through the binoculars or the Hubble telescope in this case, you know, that Colorado's presence over here is going to be a permanent crossfire in this situation. So we're under the assumption that red will begin to play the game at some point in time. If they do, we got to get this Colorado out of here. So we're going to rush him. You're going to see he's going to be shooting at us. When we're angled, he can't really do anything because he's going to be hitting the hull at this distance. Our armor is going to withstand those shots. But when we overturn like this to get those back guns into position and we're being sloppy about it, we're taking too long to kick the ship back in the original direction and close up that firing angle. Saw there, it was too wide. He punched us hard. Positional mistake on my point. When you're going to get those back guns into position as a battleship, keep in mind that it takes a while for the back end of the ship to catch up to what you're telling it to do. So what you want to do is just as those guns are getting into position to fire, you know, you already want to have had the joystick push back the opposite direction to get the rudder going back the other way to begin with. That way you pull the trigger just as the guns come into position to fire, and then you go turning the opposite direction. That'll minimize the angle that they have to shoot at, protect you, and that's going to be much more effective than what you just saw at that last exchange. So definitely not a flawless brawl here. We do take quite a bit of damage, more than we should have if we were playing more carefully. But I was trying to be hyper aggressive here, kill this guy, because I want to begin to move into position to get crossfires on these guys. That was my original intention until at the conclusion of this duel I looked on the map and saw, wow, we're only about 2 squares away from the base. Now, when we're going to pressure the enemy's base for the purposes of scoring points, which is what we're going to do, usually you'd want the destroyer to do that because they do have the option to actually capture the base due to the concealment. We can't do that. We'll keep getting reset. But we can get on the base to stop the accrual of the points. Now, that's going to be hypercritical in these close games. You get into these capture the base mode games that are deep into the match, and they're threatening to go the entire 15 minutes, and the ship count is close, then it's going to come down to score. Now, how you increase the score, you kill the enemy ships, or you get on the cap of the enemy, and that'll increase your passive income. You get 2 points every 5 seconds for not having a red ship on your base. They get 2 points every 5 seconds for not having a blue ship on their base. If we get on there, we stop them from getting those points. then any lead that they may have begins to evaporate. Or if we currently have the lead, then we begin to grow that, and we protect the lead from losing ships, which you're usually going to be doing late in the game. But these late game capture the base mode games, these are the ones that I think players have the most trouble conceptually understanding, and they really don't know how to win in these situations. Look at the composition. Yes, we got 4 ships, they got 3, but they got 2 battleships and the cruiser. We got 1 battleship, 1 cruiser, 2 destroyers. Now you got to understand the battleships are worth more points than the cruisers, which are worth more points than the destroyers. So if they kill me, that's a 100-point swing. They get, I don't know what it is, 75, we lose 25, or whatever, it doesn't matter. The score flips 100 points in the opposite direction. You'll note, we're up on them less than 100 points. So if they kill me, which they should be able to do if they focus me, then they're currently in the lead as it stands. But if we get on this base, now we get to get more points coming in. They stop getting those passive points. So if I can stay on the base long enough to increase our lead over 100 points, then I can die with impunity, in air quotes, because we still got to manage, the entire team's HP, not just our ship. But the longer we're on here, the more score we get, and the harder it is for them to win in these late game situations, which often do come down to score right at the end. It also limits their options on how they win. If they get too far down the score, then they have to kill all of our ships, and we can potentially get around that just by running away. So once again, as a battleship, I'm almost never, like 99 out of 100 times, when I even do get on the cap, which is very rare as a battleship, but 1% of the time I'd be thinking, okay, I got a cap in this situation. And that would be when the red team is so far on the other side of the map that they don't have any chance of getting back to reset you. But I can get outspotted by these guys. All I have to do is shoot me. I can't capture the base. I'm on here to increase our score. That's almost always why I'm on the cap. If they want to let you get the cap and win the game that way, then fine. They concede the game. Take the W. But if they're actually trying to win the game, they're not going to do that. They're going to come back, reset you. You got to understand conceptually, I'm not going to capture this base. So don't think just because you're on here, you got to do that. In fact, you're going to see us get off the cap at this point in time. It's kind of garbage time. We're trying to whittle them down, get more points, and damage this ship as much as possible just to make sure that our team can kill them if they need to. Also note, had the destroyer that's south of me been the one to get on the cap, he does have the option to potentially win on cap. He can actually flip the cap in that situation because they're going to have a hard time spotting him. But even that player, the destroyer, needs to understand, if they come, turn around, push the base, get off the base. You're not going to withstand that push. In most instances, you're going to die, and that's a problem. So again, your primary focus is, I'm here to get more points for our team, increase our score, increase our chances of winning that way. And we didn't talk about it much this video. Well, we didn't talk about it at all this video, but, usually capture the base mode, you're going to win more if you're defending your base late in the game. Go forward, clear your flank, go back to defend the base. That's the situation. But it went back to that point when we killed the Colorado and we saw, okay, we're that close to the base, and they didn't have any ships that were close to our base. So that allowed us to, number one, push forward, because we were trying to get those crossfire shots anyways, so we were moving that direction anyways. But might as well sail through the base at that point in time, add the 25, 30, 40 points, whatever it was that we got, built in to the time that we were on the base. So a lot of things to think about in terms of capture the base. The takeaways are, if you're going to get on the base, you're doing it primarily with the mentality of, we need more points. Or you're forcing them to turn around and respond to you. That's also another valid tactic that didn't really come up this time. Anyway, that's a look at the Bismarck for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. I do love to hear from you guys. And we'll see y'all later. Peace.